Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Probably make a couple shorts of this as well, but I just wanted to take you along for the quick walk around and kind of tutorial with the Rockler Tapering Jig. I just picked it up. I actually haven't used it at all yet. I'm getting ready to take it over to the table saw now. Play some B-roll here behind me, kind of showing a little bit more of it. Then we'll go over there and talk a little bit more in depth about it. At this time I do have it all set up and ready to go. The only thing I don't have it on it yet are the actual tape measure marks. They're still sitting over there on the table saw waiting to be put on. When you actually run this through for the first time, so it does have the aluminum miter bars along the end, and you'll actually come through and cut a clean edge. That way you have a full true zero, almost kind of like a track saw. I can show you a little bit up close. I do have another one of these. I'm getting ready to make a crosscut sled. So I did pick up a set of these. I did have to grind the bottom to pick up the wrong size of hardware. But they do have these real small, almost nylon or like plastic screws. So those you can actually slowly adjust from the opposite side. And then those screws come in and actually press onto the inside of that miter track. And they do provide you a really nice small screwdriver for it because it is awful tiny. That way you actually get a very nice fitment in your miter. There's no slop side to side. So yeah, it's enough talking about it. We'll go over to the table saw now. I'll kind of give you a walk around. Okay, so these were the tape measure pieces I was talking about. They do actually stick on to the base itself. That way, like I said, it actually has, it's just like a normal tape measure, just sticky. And you can actually get a little bit more of an idea of how much taper or how straight you're actually making something. So like I said earlier, fits perfectly into the miter slot. I already did adjust those little screws. And then what you're going to need to do is run your table saw up. That way it can actually cut that clean edge, like I said, kind of a lot like a track saw. So we're going to go ahead, get that going. So I'm actually going to move you in a little bit closer. You can see all that. And I'll get my ears in. So now we can hear each other. So there, like I said, it gave it that nice clean edge. It does also have a very convenient handle back here to be able to push it through. Keeps your hands very out of the way. So yeah, we got that all done. So I will take you back to the workbench behind me and we'll put the stickers on. Okay, so now that we have the side of it here cut down, we're going to stick our ruler stickers on. That way, like I said, you can kind of get a better idea how much you're taking off or how far offset everything is. So if you're like me, I always struggle with double-sided stickers. So I'll stick these on. You gotta line the zero up right with your fresh edge. And then we'll just take some kind of a knife and clean that other edge off. And everyone's table saw is going to be a little bit different. All depends on the miter saw or the miter track spacing, how much space you have on each side. So get the second one here. And then we'll take you back over to the table saw there. I'll actually kind of show you a little bit more how it's actually used. I kind of wanted to give you a quick tutorial here for the setup and just kind of a real quick setup guide. So I'm going to leave a little bit of the excess overhang. The table saw here on this side will actually clean it up pretty nicely. Alright, so there, now you can see them a little bit better. I have the measuring tapes on the sides, and then you have to put this piece back on. So this is actually the part that you'll butt your workpiece up against. It does come with a nice end stop here on the end. That way I can actually try and grab onto the piece of wood. And then it also comes with these 2 Rockler clamps as well to help hold everything down. Everything's pretty much held together with like the T-track bolts, so it all goes together very smooth. At the end of the day though, this is, I believe, some kind of MDF or so you don't want to go too crazy with these. They do actually give you these nice, kind of almost like skateboard tape, like some kind of a friction tape to help hold everything down. So that does help a lot as well. Keeps everything from slipping and sliding. Alright, so she's ready. I will go grab just a piece of scrap, cut off. I'll put it in here and we'll go back over there. Okay, so we got her all set up here. I have it at about 1.5 inches. I don't know how well the camera's going to focus here. And then also about just shot or just over 2 inches down here. So it should put about a 2-inch taper. So this way you can actually see it overhanging. And this is that fresh cut side, so it will just follow right along that. So now we'll just raise the blade up. Blade should go high enough for this, but I don't know. We'll find out together. Okay, we're good. So just another tip. Make sure you have these clamps secure, but you want to make sure they're out of the way. The saw blade coming through. You don't want to be running through and kind of grab a hold of these with that saw blade. Like I said earlier, I got that nice handle here in the back to help push instead of having to hold everything all at one go. So we're going to get loud again. We'll turn the saw on. It's quiet enough that we can talk. Get this thing out of the way. And this kit works perfect for little saws like this little job site saw. That actually gives this little saw a lot more versatility. So yeah, so there you can see a very slight taper. I'm trying to get the show up on camera. I'll actually grab a tape measure here real quick for you. So we got 1 inch and 5/4 there, and we got just shy of 2 inches down here. So just a little bit less than 2 or a 1/2 inch taper on this whole thing. You might be able to see it there. It's really hard to get that to show up on the camera. But yeah, this thing actually works really well. It will also work great for if you have a piece of curly maple here. It's a little bit too long, but since this is still very rough edge, it's very hard to run this through the table saw straight since both sides are rough. This would be great. Kind of just toss this in here, have it just hanging off the edge. That way you know you can get a nice clean straight edge. Then you can run that side up against the fence, and then you have now 2 straight edges, so you can process your rough lumber that way. So yeah, just a quick little recap, nice little quick tutorial, a little setup. The miter slots are all held in just by bolts instead of screws, so that makes it easy if you need to ever change anything or adjust anything. There is another set of holes next to the ones that I'm using, depending on your miter bar spacing. But yeah, this thing works great, definitely saves a lot of time. I believe they're actually on sale this weekend too, so it's actually a really good time to pick these up. And anything from Rockler does typically seem to be pretty good products. So yeah, but other than that, thanks all for checking out the video. Links in the description for all my other socials. Some things you might see here, they'll also be on sale for Etsy. Like those house number signs I was talking to you about, they'll be up for sale here pretty shortly. So yeah, please feel free to check that stuff out, and have a good one.